I recognize the member from Sask Rivers.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I rise today in the second session of the 29th Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan in the month of November 2021, November 3rd to be exact, to reply to the speech from the throne. It is with deep sadness I speak about the discrimination, coercion, and bullying tactics occurring in this province today and for many months past. Our core values have been eroded. It is with deep sadness I speak about our current status and loss of freedoms. The speech from the throne speaks of a better life, a better quality of life. Well, my grandparents came to this country to seek freedoms, speak without fear of censor, the promises of democracies and a better life for their families and for generations to come. I am the product of people who came to this country for the realization of a dream, opportunities, determined to claim a stake for their family with a good work ethic. All families living in Saskatchewan today are pursuing happiness and quality of life. As a fourth-term member of Saskatchewan Rivers, it is an honour to serve the good people from the riding. Across from Big River to Nipawin and in between the communities of Debden, Emma Lake, Candle Lake, Meath Park, Choiceland, Love and White Fox. We all dream of a great future for our children and a life of security so that their future is bright. It is a diverse riding, some families going back a few generations while others are newcomers, but the one common denominator for all is their hopes and their dreams. And it is my hope that all people have the opportunities to shape their vision. It is my hope that all people have a secure future in the great province of Saskatchewan and unify with one another. It's my hope that we can change this current situation in the province, leave our egos at the door, and salvage our province. Let us not be judged by our medical status. I do not walk alone, as many people have talked with me. We're all created equal. We all sit at the table of humanity. I am working towards the quest for freedoms for all Saskatchewan people and the security of justice. It is obvious today Saskatchewan has defaulted on our basic rights. The rally, the demonstration of freedom held last week on the steps of this historic building will go down in history as the throne speech of discontent. It is also obvious today, Mr. Speaker, that the winter of discontent is upon us, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I stand before you today as the voice of the people who are muzzled, desperate to be heard, discriminated upon, unable to move freely in the province of Saskatchewan. We need a commitment to protect our Saskatchewan values, our core values and principles. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom states, whereas Canada was founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. I believe that our rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of truth, to understand natural laws, were granted to us by our Creator, and not by governments who we, the people, elect to serve us, and not to rule us by unjust laws. I truly believe the Saskatchewan people have a vision for Saskatchewan to remain a province with a true and free democracy governed in accordance to the rule of just laws, supportive of the family structure and a free enterprise system, enabling every Saskatchewan citizen to pursue their dreams, which leads to good health, happiness, peace, and prosperity, described in this throne speech. Our Saskatchewan Rivers office is receiving an enormous amount of phone calls and emails regarding personal stories of concern, panicky, and angry citizens over the loss of their jobs, the loss of sending their children to school, the loss of what they call their freedoms. We have also heard of remorse and vaccine injuries becoming more common. Not every human is responding favorably to the vaccine. Therefore, public opinion is becoming more vocal in less government interference in personal choices. One local family took their children and fled to Nicaragua, Mr. Deputy Speaker. They phoned me to ask if it's safe to come home to Saskatchewan, as they are fearful of more mandates and restrictions. This is the new Saskatchewan we live in. This is what we are living in now. Is this what our forefathers wanted for us? Is this the freedom many of our grandfathers and fathers fought and died for, as you so eloquently described, Mr. Deputy Speaker? Comply or be sent to a camp after a neighbour phoned the snitch line? Is this the government's principles? I think not. I know in the government's heart they believe in principled leadership developed over years by our ancestors, which have worked until this recent 2020-21 pandemic. Unfortunately, people are not unified. Mr. Speaker, in reply to the throne speech, our motto and fundamental belief of many people's strength is a great value of the province of Saskatchewan. I am thankful to be a voice of the people who feel their voices are not heard. On this day in Saskatchewan in the year 2021, I am rising in the Assembly to add to the archives of history the many stories told in the province. This story is one of despair, fear, and mistrust of the future for our next generations. Concerned people are reaching out to me from across our province, across Canada, and across the United States. They know what is happening is unconstitutional, and they want to know how the blatant infringement of human rights can be stopped. Your rights cannot be violated in an emergency time. There is no clause in the Constitution, despite what the government is propagating to its citizens. Saskatchewan is now on the human rights violation watch list by other developed countries. Under the Statute of Canada 2017 in Chapter 3, an act was assented to prohibit and prevent genetic discrimination. On May 4, 2017, the Genetic Non-Discrimination Act was passed into law in Canada. This protection provides under GNA federally regulated employers cannot request genetic test results of an employee and bans discrimination based on genetic characteristics. A genetic test result is defined as a test that analyzes DNA for purposes such as the prediction of transmission risks or monitoring. Now, this enactment amends the Canadian Labour Code to protect employees from being required to undergo or to disclose the results of a test. Mr. Deputy Speaker. Dated September 14, 2021, Dr. Eric Payne, MD, MPH, FRCP, Harvard grad, and former staff at Mayo Clinic wrote, "While I refuse to take this novel experimental mRNA therapy, my wife, children, and I are completely vaccinated, including yearly flu shots. This is not a contradictory stance, as these current mRNA vaccines represent a dramatic departure from using, for instance, live attenuated viruses. Rather, they represent a completely novel and experimental therapy with no long-term data." Unquote. Mr. Deputy Speaker, obviously, some people are refusing or objecting to receive this vaccine, while others are welcoming their third, fourth, and more booster shots to come. Government should not be taking away individual freedom and preventing the equality of opportunity for all citizens. A strong social safety net which protects those who truly need support while encouraging individuals to become self-sufficient. Dramatic reform to make government more responsive to the people it serves. Those last two are the principles of the Saskatchewan Party, the guiding principles, number 5 and number 6. The throne speech states a healthy and a more independent Saskatchewan. Some citizens do not want government intervention in their personal lives. They do not want vaccine incentives and coercion. Vaccines should be a choice and constitutional right to make a choice. Democracy, freedom, and rights need to be protected. Government should not have the rights to dictate what you do to your body and your personal decisions. Many people in our small communities are finding it difficult to navigate the weekly costs, not to mention the fear and anxiety and the mental health that these past 2 years have caused. This does not unify a province, Mr. Deputy Speaker. How is a better education for our children described in the throne speech align with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms or even the government's guiding values and principles? How does violating the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms make government more responsive to the government it serves? And how does verbal bullying and threats of job losses make government more responsible to the people it serves? These are the questions, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that people across the province are asking me. The reality of today's Saskatchewan should be a very good one. We have everything the world wants: food, fuel, and people. And our greatest resource is the people of the province. We have wonderful families in many communities across our dear province. Our valued Crown employees are contacting me, fearful, now distrustful, of the same government who, after many years of faithful service, they are feeling forced to take a medical procedure they don't want. We always had a labour shortage. Are we going to have more of a labour shortage? They are now unable to provide food and shelter, the basic necessities for their children, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I don't want to hear these stories, and I know we can do better. These same employees of Saskatchewan do not know if there will be social nets to help them survive the long, cold winter coming. So families have now fled to Nicaragua, the United States, Korea, Brazil, asking me to notify when is it safe to come home. Safe to come home. Where in the throne speech does it talk about Saskatchewan's security from its government? Is this the new province we created, the one our grandfathers and fathers fought for, liberty and freedom? A global policy and advisor who worked in Washington, D.C. reached out to me, and this person said, "Nadine, do you know your province of Saskatchewan is on the human rights violation watch list as to what it's doing to its citizens? The world is watching this turn of events." Well, that took me aback. I had to process that one. Saskatchewan? We're talking about Saskatchewan? No wonder many of our neighbours are fleeing the country till this madness, this insanity subsides. We are now parallel where the past reaches the present. So in conclusion, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the throne speech discusses provincial autonomy for Saskatchewan, which I agree with. Discussions of taking back the administration of our corporate income tax system from the federal government is a very good sign. I feel considering other measures around the discussions to build autonomy is very valuable indeed. I would like to see more dialogue around the Saskatchewan Independent Banking Act, promoting private ownership, where private ownership is not controlled by Eastern interests. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the throne speech concluded with meeting challenges, perseverance, courage, faith, and compassion, which I know this government has in their heart. I'm deeply concerned with the future of our once great province and country, which millions of Canadians have always held dear, and for which I will continue to serve my constituents to do everything in my power to uphold these God-given rights and freedoms, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and the Canadian Privacy Act for current and generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.